Bienvenidos, señores y señores, to another episode of the Bleed Lows Podcast. Estamos en vivo. This episode of the Bleed Lows Podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. So when the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action and use the promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit, up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. And joining us on the Carne Asada, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest, and that is baseball columnist for USA Today, Bob Nightengale. Bob, ¿cómo estás, amigo?
Muy bien. You too?
I love when you show off the Spanish, Bob. Bob, we wanted to have you on because it's mind-numbing trade talk. The trade deadline is right around the corner, just as we're about to go on live. The D-backs, the Serpientes, already made a move. Bob, I want to start off with this. What are the Dodgers' greatest needs, and how are they going to address these needs?
Well, yeah, they have a few. They need another late inning reliever. I'm sure they would love to get A.J. Puke that the Diamondbacks got. They want another starting pitcher, and they like to have a position player. I think Garrett Crochet, they're all over him. He makes a lot of sense. Also, if you make it a bigger package, go ahead and bring in Luis Robert as well, and a reliever too. So they can do a lot of work just with one team. With the White Sox, Kopech, Michael Kopech has struggled with the White Sox, but he's got a great arm, and I think they probably figure they can fix him.
Bob, how true is it that if they do go after Crochet is going to want to get extended? He's going to want to get paid in order for him to pitch in the postseason. Is that legitimate, or are people just blowing smoke out there?
Well, they said that about a month ago. I mentioned that in my column, but come on, if they're traded to the Dodgers, and you're really going to look at your teammates in the face and the Dodger fans and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm shutting it down." Hey, you're under contract. You're a violation of your contract if you don't pitch. So who's going to do that? Remember when CC Sabathia got traded to the Brewers? He pitched on short day rest, I think 4 times on the stretch because he wanted to help him get to the World Series. I don't know how you can look teammates in the eye and say, "Sorry, fellas, I'll see you next spring."
Cody, come on in here. Those of you on the live, get your questions in for Bob. We're only going to have Bob on for about 10 more minutes. So whatever trade questions you have, get them in. Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob, again, thanks for coming on. I know it's a busy time for you guys and you insiders out there, but I think a little bit out of the box issue that the Dodgers are struggling with this year, and it really just relies on the health of Max Muncy, and that's just third base. Collectively, since even when he was with the team and he was playing, they are batting under 200. They're bottom third of the league, bottom of the National League in terms of offensive production from third base. I know there's some names out there. Are there any chances that the Dodgers try to swing for the fences and get like a permanent third baseman? You got the Rays option in Paredes, and then you got Luis Rengifo in the cross, freeway Angels. I know those two teams don't like to deal with each other, but do you think the Dodgers could surprise some people?
I mean, Paredes is available. They could certainly get him. I don't see the Angels trading to the Dodgers. I don't. I think it'd be embarrassing to them. Hey, Marty Moreno, remember, vetoed a trade a few years ago with the Dodgers when making that big move. So I don't see that one happening. But yeah, certainly they get a Paredes, or hoping Muncy comes back. I mean, the key is is going to be Mookie Betts. I mean, that's a big blow. I think Mookie Betts was MVP of the National League until he got hurt. But they need him back just to restore some order.
Yeah, and then kind of going with some more, I guess, where there's smoke, there could be a conversation. The Chicago Cubs, obviously they have not gotten off to the start of the season, and now it's kind of get a little bit too late for them to, I guess, right the course. Their GM has already stated, they are looking, if anything doesn't change in the next couple of days, that they're going to be looking to more for 2025. David Vassegh mentioned on the Dodgers talk show, he mentioned that the Dodgers were really interested, or at least doing their due diligence on a couple names, Ian Happ, Nico Horner. Do you think there's any truth to those rumors there? Do you think the Cubs would even willingly trade either of those guys? Because, if their focus is 2025, those guys are under contract for, I believe, 2.5 years still. So
I think Ian Happ would be tougher to move, and I'm not sure, that they would do that. I mean, they could get a Rosarina or a Robert instead of that. But I would think the infielder Nico Horner, why not? I think they'd move him. He didn't have a good year. Obviously, the Cubs have had a bad year. So I think all those guys are available. And they don't want to say the word sell, but they are selling. But I think Horner makes more sense than Happ. I just don't think they want to invest those type of prospects in Happ. It'll be less prospects, of course, for Horner.
And then, starting pitching is obviously a need for a lot of playoff teams. That's going to be what a lot of people want. That's what wins games in October. Obviously, we know the big names out there. Scooball's kind of, the wild card. You got Crochet, who we already mentioned. Jack Flaherty's up there. Is there any other, starting pitching options that just aren't getting enough flowers right now that could, potentially impact not only the Dodgers, but other teams are on the market? But what are your thoughts on that for any potential names?
I think like an Eric Fetty for the White Sox, it wouldn't make sense. I don't think Scooball's getting traded. I think it would be, moronic for the Tigers to do that. The guy might be the best pitcher in baseball, and they're knocking the door. They're not that far away, next year. So I don't see him being dealt. But yeah, I think, Flaherty's from L.A., born and raised, so he makes a lot of sense. But remember, when he got traded last year to the Orioles, he stuck after that trade. So you kind of hold your breath there, but that makes sense. I mean, really, they need Yamamoto to bounce back, need a Glass now to stay healthy, and they need Walker Buehler to be the old Walker Buehler. I think those are the biggest things right there. If those guys can bounce back and just be themselves, then they're fine.
And then last thing before I swing it back to Juan, we've been kind of asking this question to multiple Red Sox personalities. Kenley Jansen, I feel like that's just been a name that's been heavily linked to the Dodgers for almost the entire season, and then going back to the winter. The Red Sox haven't really gotten off to the best start in the second half so far. They have one of the toughest schedules, winning percentage-wise. If they end up falling out and selling some pieces, do you think Jansen's a viable piece for a Dodgers bullpen? Because I agree with you. I think they do need, someone late innings, and looking at Evan Phillips, he hasn't really done the job so far since he's been activated. Is there any truth to these rumors?
I would think so. I mean, all the big boys need back end relievers. The Phillies have been struggling at the back end. Yankees, a lot of problems. Obviously, Dodgers, but a lot of these teams need that type of guy. I just don't know if the Red Sox would wave the white flag and say, okay, we're giving up, especially after you're extending Alex Cora. Then, hey, Alex, by the way, we're quitting on this year. So that would surprise me. But yeah, if they keep on losing, maybe they may even ask him, hey, do you want to be traded? Where do you want to be traded? And obviously, he'd love to go back to LA.
Bob, let's get some questions in here from our viewers. Michael Carrillo, I know you at the beginning, Bob, you had mentioned a reliever and you mentioned back end here, but Michael Carrillo wants to know, what would they do reliever-wise? Is it someone just on the back end, or could the Dodgers be eyeing someone else to get them through those middle innings?
No, I think they're open to both. Like a lot of teams, and let's be honest, the inventory is so small. It's got a chance to be a dud of a trade deadline. I think Crochet is definitely being traded, but if Scooball's not traded, there's not one guy out there that says, oh, this is going to make me a World Series team or automatically get me in the playoffs. But no, I think, just the more arms, the better. Because come playoff time, the relievers are more important in many ways than the starters, because you're using relievers every day. Because you play the 2 games off, 3, 4, 5 off. But, a reliever can appear, in just about every single game, where in the playoffs, the starters seem like they only go about 5 innings.
Casey Kaufman, could the Dodgers get both Robert and Randy Arozarena?
And that wouldn't make sense to me. It'd just be one or the other. I think if I'm going to do a package deal, it would be with the White Sox again, Crochet, Robert, maybe Michael Kopech too. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to get, both those guys.
Denny Cortez, what's Bob's prediction on trades for the Dodgers? So it seems like they have quite a number of holes, Bob. I don't think they have enough trade chips to fill in all of those holes. What do you think the Dodgers which holes do they end up addressing?
I think they go get Crochet. You can use him in the bullpen too. He's, great arm. So I think they get him. I think they get an outfielder, whether it's a Rosarina, whether it's a Robert, maybe Paredes too. But I would think Rosarina or Robert would make the most sense. And then grab some pieces in the bullpen. There's going to be a lot of relievers out there.
Bob, the elephant in the room for me is the Baltimore Orioles seem to have the best farm system, and in particular, position players. I know a lot of people on the live right now will disagree with me, but I feel the Dodgers' strongest prospects are pitchers. And if you got teams, it's all about how they match up. Like, what's it going to take to get a deal done for Randy Arozarena? Because I do keep hearing that name. And are we looking like, is that going to be a heavy prospect? I mean, the Rays seem to know the Dodgers farm system pretty well, so they know what they got down there.
Yeah, they make deals with each other all the time, particularly Andrew Freeman coming from Tampa. I mean, Rosarina has not had a good season. It's not like we're talking about some all-star outfielder, but he does step it up in the bright lights and become a stud, whether it's a WBC or when he was in the playoffs with the Rays. So he's got value there. It won't take a ton, probably maybe certainly a top 5 or 6 prospect, maybe 2 of the top 15, that sort of thing. But so it won't be nearly as much as you think.
Okay, just a few more minutes here with Bob, guys. Roy Estrada coming in. Thank you with the super chat. He's saving up for the Japan series. He wants to know, Bob, what 2 teams will make the first blockbuster trade?
Yeah, just because there's not many blockbusters, it's got to be Dodgers or Yankees. It's got to be those teams. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you guys know better than anybody is that anything less than a World Series title is a disaster for the Dodgers. They got to get to the World Series where the whole season is a bust. So they're going to be aggressive. The Yankees, almost to that level. They got to play at least in deep October with that size payroll and having Juan Soto and Judge having the seasons they have. So I think those 2 teams be most aggressive. I think the Phillies go out, go get another outfielder, kind of a 4th outfielder and some late inning bullpen help. But I think it's the Dodgers and Yankees.
Violet Vergas, Vladimir Guerrero as our 3rd baseman. Bob, what are the chances that Vladimir Guerrero gets traded?
I think 0. They want to win in 2025, so they're not going to trade Guerrero or Bo Bichette. So it'll be interesting a year from now. Maybe they change their mind, but they want to give their fan base a chance to celebrate at least one time before the window closes, because those guys are both free agents after next year.
Michael Carrillo wants to know, Bob, what teams are Juan Soto? What are the teams that Juan Soto is looking at for next year?
I can't see it more than 2 teams, Yankees and Mets. It's going to cost about $500 million. I don't see the Dodgers, dipping into that. They already spent $1.3 billion last winter. I don't see the Cubs do that. So kind of process elimination. I just don't see anybody else, jumping in that sweepstake. I think the Dodgers' big move will be the Japanese pitcher. I think he's coming over next year, and I think he's going to the Dodgers.
That's Roki. That's
and he's got a better arm than everybody. I mean, he's got a better arm than Yamamoto, Ohtani, you name it. So I mean, I'm not saying he's a better pitcher because he's so young, but talent wise is off the charts.
Last one before we let you go, Bob. I know this may be Andrew Friedman speak, but he made it seem like he's not going to make any trades if it's just a marginal improvement. Are the Dodgers realistically saying, well, with all these people we have injured and with them coming back, they might be better than the options that that we have at the trade deadline. If they do that.
Yeah, what surprised me, I mean, when you look at the Dodger trades, nobody's come back to haunt them. I don't care when they got, Machado or all the guys they've got, and Scherzer, Turner. I mean, nobody has really come back to haunt the Dodgers. So no, I could see that. But I still think they'll make some move. You almost have to make a move just to show the clubhouse, hey, we're all in. We're trying guys, everything else. Like I said, I think they have to be as aggressive as anybody, just because the expectations for the Dodgers are maybe outside the Yankees is higher than any team in baseball.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. I know this is a very busy time of year for you. We really can't thank you enough for taking the time and giving us the information that we need. Where can our listeners, our viewers, follow you to get all the latest trade and baseball news?
Yeah, just on the Twitter account, the X account, just B Nightengale, or on usatoday.com.
There you have it. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Take care, guys. See you in October.
See you.
Okay.
See, guys, he knows we're going to be there in October. So
that's right. Okay, so those of you in the chat, so we got a lot to talk about. So you guys can react to what Bob Nightengale said about the trade deadline. We're also going to talk about, hey, some guy made his 2024 debut earlier today. The Dodgers took 3 out of 4 out of the Gigantes. They had a very good homestand. Ended up going 6-1 after the disaster that was before the All-Star break. So let's start first with Kershaw. Canelo, what did you see from Kershaw? Are you encouraged? What do you expect?
Yeah, I think kind of going back to, let's go back all the way to the offseason where he re-signs with the Dodgers, and we see the surgery he has, we know the rehab. We've seen it with other pitchers. It could be, he could miss the entire season. We talked a lot about Brandon Woodruff, and this guy's not pitching for the entire year. Kershaw, even at age 36, ends up coming back before August. That midsummer, return date, he had kind of just hit it right on the head right there. It comes at a time where the Dodgers desperately need rotation depth, and I know me and you have been pretty vocal about, Kershaw can't be leading this team in October. Kershaw can't, they can't depend on Kershaw. Well, until the Dodgers make trades, that's just how it is right now. Kershaw is arguably the number 2 starter on the rotation right now. It's a toss-up between, him and Stone, and then Glass now at 1. They need him. And today, it looked like it was about to, be a really bad start, especially in that second inning. But for him, I think him being a veteran, kind of slowing down the moment, stepping off the mound a couple times, and to get through that, striking out 3 straight hitters to get out of that inning, 4 solid innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, which is pretty big for me. His off-speed stuff was working. The slider looked nasty. The curveball looked great. I mean, the fastball, it is what it is, guys. That's just not a pitch he can really use primarily anymore. It hovers around, 88 to 90 miles per hour. Most big league hitters are just going to feast off that. But I think for a first start of potentially, probably if you're looking until the end of the season, maybe like 10 or so, I think it was really encouraging. And, the Dodgers this deadline still need to, trade for starters. I know they have other guys coming back or potentially coming back in Buehler, who's on a rehab assignment. Bobby Miller, they've already stated they expect him to be back eventually, but I think they just owe Kershaw, let him, work his way out for the rest of the season. If he's good enough to start postseason games, awesome. This guy is an all-time great. He deserves that opportunity. But I was really, happy with what I saw from Kershaw today.
Before I go to you, Babyface, I just do want to acknowledge it's Simeon's birthday today. Simeon, a very strong supporter, loyal supporter of the Bleed Lows podcast from the beginning. So I know some of you in the chat already wished him a happy birthday, but hey, it's Simeon's birthday today. He got to go to the Dodger game. He got to see Clayton Kershaw pitch. Feliz cumpleaños, Simeon. Babyface, what were your thoughts on Kershaw? I know you were bullish. You predicted this. You thought he was going to be great.
Yeah, I thought, for what it was, his first performance, the first game back, 4 innings, I mentioned I thought maybe he could have got to 5. There was a couple misplays in that one inning, right, where I think the ball bounced off and kind of led to some extra pitches that inning, a couple other plays as well. Maybe he could have got to 5, but I think for what it was, definitely it was Kershaw, right? And yeah, we were talking about fastball is not going to be 95, 96. He's going to be about 90. But Kershaw knows how to pitch. He knows how to control his pitches. He knows how to pitch. He knows how to get those out. So it's encouraging, and look forward to his next start, and hopefully he'll get in 5 innings. If he stays healthy, I see him pitching every time. He's going to go 5-6 innings. So I think that's all the Dodgers could ask for, and they're going to take that, and they're going to be happy with that.
It's very interesting because watching that broadcast today, I don't want to say that it sounded like a funeral, but the word granted was being thrown out there a lot. They were cutting to his family, and it almost felt like this was his going away game. Like this was the last game he ever played. And that's the reality, right? The reality is he may be one pitch away from us never seeing him pitch again. Cody and I have brought this up a lot, and that is if the Dodgers are depending on Kershaw, if they are depending on Walker Buehler, if they are depending on Bobby Miller to come back and be the guys that they were, I don't know about that. I feel the Dodgers really need to make a move for a starter. And every MLB insider that we've spoken to, the first name they mention is Crochet. And then the other thing that they tell us, right, Cody, is Scooball's not getting traded. Like, so just take him off the list. Now, I know, Michael Carrillo, you brought up something that we brought up on the interview there. I mean, I don't know if it's a fair comparison to do Crochet and Glasnow, but these are two guys that are now past their innings limit. They have not pitched more than this. So you're going to go trade for Crochet? And is that a roll of the dice? Would you be better off, like Michael Carrillo said right now, Flaherty, Canelo? Is that really maybe who the Dodgers should be targeting?
Yeah, especially with the comments today coming out of, Crochet's camp. Honestly, we talked to multiple guys in the past hour where he's a player trying to look out for himself. He's blown past his career high in innings. He's looking to get some type of guaranteed deal. That way, say if something does happen, that he at least has a spot for the next couple seasons to be on the roster. If you look at Crochet's stats, there's a reason why so many teams are coveting this guy. There's a reason why, despite all the risks, the Dodgers are heavily in on him. This dude is a lefty that throws gas, can strike out. I think he leads the league in strikeouts, and is just one of the best arms on the market this season on a White Sox team that is 100% selling, where a lot of these other starting pitchers, they're kind of on teams that are hovering around 500, where they could, a couple good weeks, a couple good stretches of games, they could be in playoff contention. Or next season, if they add the right pieces in the offseason, they could, be competing for, a postseason spot as well. I think Crochet makes sense. I think if you're looking for somebody that is a Swiss Army knife type of pitcher, even though he said he didn't want to go into the bullpen, I think he's more valuable where he is into a similar situation what the Dodgers did with Julio Urias, a couple seasons ago, where he can start games, he can come in from the bullpen and strike out your best hitters. Looking at the playoff outlook, like if they face this Phillies team, they need an impact lefty that can get those lefty bats out. I want someone like Garrett Crochet facing Harper with the game on the line. I feel like he would be up for the task. But am I comfortable, if I'm Andrew Freeman, selling a good key pieces of my farm for a guy who is hellbent on getting an extension, refuses, to go back to the bullpen? And I like how you said it's similar to the Glasnow, trade in extension, but then there's it's not in the same sense, because at least Glasnow was a proven starting pitcher for every single season he came up, and then gradually built up his innings over time, where, Crochet's kind of been all over the place, got drafted during the 2020 COVID year. His college year got cut short. He bounces as a starter, then a reliever, gets Tommy John, and then comes back as a starter a couple years later. Glasnow didn't have that type of, up and down history throughout his career. So I think that hurts Crochet. I think it hurts the White Sox too, especially after his comments today. So I just don't know what type of package is going to get. I think the White Sox would be better off just packaging him and Robert. And I feel like that would help, solve a lot of issues with the Dodgers right now. They need a center fielder. They need a starting pitcher. But do they, want to put those two together, or do they maximize each player's value doing two separate trades? I'm not sure. I like Jack Flaherty, but, like Bob brought it up, Jack Flaherty was decent with St. Louis in the first half last year. They said, oh, look, he's showing signs of his flashbacks. Gets traded to Baltimore, and then they ended up taking him out of the starting rotation, put him in the bullpen. He was that bad. So I don't know. Maybe the Tigers owe us, after last deadline when, Rodriguez decided, to ghost us on the call. But yeah, it's interesting. The thing is they just have to look at all available options, and those two names just aren't the only guys out there.
Babyface, who should they be targeting as a starter?
I mean, I definitely think that they should be targeting those guys. I mean, how realistic, we'll see. I mean, the Crochet thing, what came out today, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a big wrench that other teams aren't going to want to, touch that without giving them an extension. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be one of those lesser guys, like we've mentioned before. They'll eventually probably get somebody. Maybe it's like a Jack Flaherty, and we mentioned Eovaldi, but are the Rangers going to sell now? Are they going to who is realistically available? That's kind of the thing. Like, are there actual pitchers on the market that are available besides those top two names that we've heard? So it's going to be tough. I mean, we'll see what happens. Comes down on Tuesday. The Dodgers have pieces that they can move, and we'll see if one of those teams is going to take it.
And Bob mentioned Arozarena, and that's also another name that's been linked for like months with the Dodgers. I do agree with people that bring it up. I think it's just a match, like a perfect match. People in the offseason, our fans clamored for that move. I think fans, even despite his bad season this year, they still would like to see Randy Arozarena in the outfield. The Rays have two decent pitchers that they could, put into that trade package in Zach Eflin and then Littell, where, Eflin I would probably say is the better option. I think Littell has like an ERA almost at like 4.5, but it shows that there's multiple routes that they can go, because I don't think the Dodgers, while I want them to get an impact, ace to help, not only eat innings, but also be a frontline starter for the postseason, they don't necessarily, if you're Andrew Freeman, need to go all in that route. Because if you're really, I know a lot of people are going to hate that, but if you're really banking on Yamamoto coming back, Walker Buehler being fine, Clayton Kershaw being okay, then you really aren't, or Bobby Miller also coming back, then you're really not pressed to get a starting pitcher like the fans want. But I'm letting it know before I get clipped on this, I don't agree with that at all, because I think me and Juan can attest to this. We've seen it year in and year out. You can't bank on guys that are injured to come back and give you meaningful innings. It just doesn't work. That's just not how a good, ran baseball team should operate. So, and we've already starting to see, multiple articles being posted by multiple MLB insiders, especially Dodger beat writers, where Brandon Gomes and Andrew Freeman are kind of starting to preach that hey, we're going to get these guys back eventually. And I really just hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm preparing myself for that, Cody. Look, here is my thing, and I don't know if that's smokescreen. I hope that's smokescreen. They're not putting their cards out on the table, okay? But you have right now, if the playoffs started today, you're going in there with a Tyler Glasnow, who we don't know. Yeah, he was just off the IL. His start against he got this. Was that rust, or is that him being tired? That's my concern, is if all these pitchers are tired by the All-Star break, how the hell can we expect them to have enough gas in the tank come the postseason? All right. So Glasnow would be your number one. Gavin Stone would be your number two. Gavin Stone, who's going to go over his innings limit. He's never pitched this. And look, to me, Gavin Stone, every time he's pitched, he's shown up. Like there hasn't been, I mean, maybe a handful of starts where he got shelled, but he keeps the team in the games. But after Gavin Stone, you're going to have to turn to rookies if you don't get another pitcher. You're going to have to turn to Landon Knack. You're going to have to turn to Robleski. Yeah, okay. Look, you're going to put in Clayton Kershaw at 36 years old, coming off of surgery. I just feel you can't. They have to. Let's not lose sight of the fact that Mookie's getting older, Federico's getting older. Like if Shohei really is the unicorn, you don't know how long his prime is, but they have to go all in. They have to win now. So my question to you guys in the chat right now, you guys tell me what the Dodgers' needs are? I know for sure it's starting pitching. Do you guys think we need a reliever? Are you guys now Gavin Lux believers with the tear that he's been on recently? I mean, it looks like he's not going to win the Danny Duffy tonight, but does that mean because Lux is starting to turn it on, they don't need another infielder? The Randy Rosarena, look, I know that the last few games, Andy Pages has looked rough out there defensively, out in the outfielder, but realistically, how many? Okay, Michael Carrillo says 2 bats and 2 arms. Okay. Canelo, do they have enough in the farm system to get 2 bats and 2 arms?
I think they do. I think the Dodgers farm system this season has been extremely undervalued by a lot of, national media outlets. When we had Robbie Hyde on a couple weeks back, we mentioned the Bleacher Report article that ranked him kind of middle of the pack, like 15. I don't agree with that. I think the Dodgers have enough high-end talent that they could get a deal done. They have enough major league ready players, especially guys that are on the 40-man or the 26-man roster that they can move on from to like move a deal across. They also have a lot of young, prospects. DePaula is a name that's been mentioned a lot. They have a lot of catching depth that they can, move off of. And, you mentioned it with Bob, pitching. They have so much pitching and teams covet pitching. And I think, the Dodgers do a good job at not only pitching development, but just picking the right guys, especially in the draft or internationally, whatever they're doing the right thing. So I think they can get a lot of deals done. I also think it goes to, the Orioles. Yes, they have the best farm system in baseball. The Dodgers can't, if you're going to go 1-for-1 in prospect capital, they can't match the Orioles offer. My big thing is that Andrew Freeman, if he's hyper aggressive, he may be willing to offer more than what the Orioles, who just opened their contention window, would be, comfortable with offering. Because, at the end of the day, Juan, you're right. It's not many times in, your franchise you get multiple, perennial MVP winners in their primes on the same team, and they haven't won a playoff series yet together. Like, it doesn't happen often, and you got to make sure you put all your chips in the basket and go all in. That's why I'm saying I know Skubals is just an out of the, trade idea that got rumored like a couple weeks ago, but no one thought Trey Turner was going to get traded in 2021. That just came out of the nowhere. It was like Max Scherzer and then, Trey Turner's also coming to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers should go all in on that. I think if they want to get multiple, players around the league, in my opinion, what do they need to add? They need outfield help. They need a back-end reliever in the bullpen, and they need at least 2 starting pitchers. If you can't get 2, you got to get 1 dependable ace, and that's going to cost you a lot. I'm willing to depart with DePaula. I'm willing to depart with, Dalton Rushing. I'm willing to depart with River Ryan, Justin Robleski. Like, these guys, they're going to make some other team very happy, but at the end of the day, if we get in players that can help us not only just make it past the NLDS, but at least get to the World Series and ultimately win the World Series, I'll remember that a little bit more. And I think every fan, I think this is the first year in a long time that a lot of people that even are prospect huggers are agreeing that you have to go all in on this season and next season. And what better time to start than the trade deadline right now?
Roy Estrada, starters, 1 reliever, 2 more bats, 1 outfield, 1 infield. Babyface, that seems like a lot. And look, I know, Bob said this, there isn't a big game changer out there. And the fact, because there's not a lot out there, doesn't that drive up the price? Do the Dodgers have enough to get all these needs? Or maybe it's not a smokescreen, and what Andrew Friedman is doing is preparing us when he says we're not going to make a trade if it's just going to marginally improve us.
I mean, what Cody was saying, the Dodgers, how they've ranked recently, their farm system is not as high up as it's been. But for me, I think us as Dodger fans, we kind of look at our farm system and we think like, oh, these guys are the greatest. But what if other teams are looking at them as well? And they think like, you know what? Yeah, those are nice players, but I can get better players from this team, this team, this team. So that's the biggest fear for me is like, hey, yeah, we think we could go get a guy like Crochet and we could give him a guy like DePaula or Dalton Rushing or whatever. But what if they White Sox see that? And you know what? I actually value these players from the Phillies better than these. So that's a real possibility. And us as Dodger fans, we're like, oh no, but we got these guys. These guys are great. But it takes two to tango, right? You don't know what a team like the White Sox is actually looking for. If they're looking for somebody that the Phillies or the Orioles are going to give a better deal. Dodgers have a lot of holes, but to think that, yeah, they're going to go get 2 bats, 3 bats, 2 outfielders, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point, Babyface, because in this situation, I don't trust the White Sox front office. I don't trust that they're going to make the right decision for and trust me, because my boys are all White Sox fans out in Chicago, and they're ready. They're ready to get, I mean, they've been trying to run Reinsdorf out of Chicago for the longest time. So that's also something that you have to take into account is the front office that you're dealing with. How many times have the Dodgers, if you believe the rumors, presented good trades that would have made the Angels better, but the Angels wouldn't pull the trigger out of spite? So, I mean, there are other factors that are involved in trades that we aren't privy to. We don't have these conversations.
And I'm also thinking like, hey, 29 teams saw the Dodgers go into this offseason and drop over $1 billion, right? Are they going to be that anxious to help the Dodgers? Say, yeah, take my best pitcher now. Take my best pitcher now. Yeah, it's going to ultimately help them what the return they get. But how many are going to be like, yeah, take our best guy to go help your team?
Well, that's the Dodger tax. That's the Dodger tax that we all seem to believe exists out there, that there is a different price when the Dodgers are negotiating. And when Michael Carrillo says, hey, a lot of teams are going to stand pat and that are on the bubble, well, that means kind of the Dodgers are going to be negotiating against themselves, and we don't know it, right? So that is part of the issue. The other concern I think it was brought up is, do you really believe what you're seeing now? I know we already know some people on here don't trust Lux, that they don't believe that Lux. But if some of these guys start playing well, like poor Chris Taylor, I mean, just when he was showing signs of life, and now he gets injured, right? Kike, the last few games, he's actually showing signs of life. I mean, he was a guy like before.
Because he's wearing glasses now.
So you can actually see the ball. So like before, we had guys like Jason Hayward, we had guys like Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor, guys that weren't performing with the hope that they would turn their season around. Well, it is now the second half. Like, what do we do? Do you believe, like Michael Carrillo says, Kike has proven himself in the postseason? So is he gonna come the postseason? Does he flip the switch? That's the gamble that this team, because everybody we talk to, everybody at the stadium, if the Dodgers don't win the World Series, this is a failure of a season. So I mean, at this point, Canelo, what do you do?
To kind of roll it back a little bit with Gavin Lux, I think he has started, month after month, he has shown better either plate discipline. He's had some better swings. We're starting to see some more slug. And I really think this guy, I mentioned it on X today when I was replying to, a couple fans where I was like, if this guy can just bat around 250 and get on base, that's fine because he plays really good second base. When Mookie Betts comes back, he'll be back at shortstop. You're hoping Max Muncy comes back at third. If not, you're trying to find a solution there. I think this team, while it does have holes, I think the place where they need to definitely go all in at is just the outfield. I think the outfield and the bench depth definitely need to be revamped. Shout out Chris Taylor. I know you were like turning some things around, but this groin injury, I'm cross my fingers that it crosses out his return for the rest of the season, and then they try to do something creative, bring in another bench bat, someone that you're not going to have to overpay the farm for, but someone that can just at least give you, meaningful plate appearances. Because even though he was starting to turn it around in July, I think he went back to old habits and he was batting under 200 again. So I don't know. I think the Dodgers need to just revamp the bench and get an outfield bat. That's where Randy Arozarena makes a lot of sense to me. I've seen people even throwing around Ahmed Rosario again for a reunion there, a middle infield depth. I definitely could see it because he did hit, left-handed pitching pretty well. Dodgers as a team this year hit lefties pretty well, but in terms of production from the outfield, even with Teoscar Hernandez added into that bunch, they're not hitting well. They're bottom third in the National League in terms of weighted runs created plus, and that's just because Andy Pages has just kind of gone up and down. James Outman hasn't done anything this season, and that's something that they were banking on for them to do good this year. So I don't know. I feel like it sounds like there's a lot of holes, but I feel like one or two players will plug those holes pretty well. And I think Arozarena, that's my prediction. I do think they get that guy. Slot him in, a corner position. He's not going to play center, but it'll help though.
Babyface, what trades do you think are going to happen?
Real quick, going back to Kike. I mean, I do have faith that he in the playoffs will get those big hits. And kind of just going back to this weekend against the Red Sox, it was kind of, a big series. It was kind of, I felt it was a big series for Kike as well because he was playing. It was his. He just hit his 10-year major league service. He was playing the Red Sox, the team that he spent a couple years with, and he had a pretty big game in one of those games, right? And to me, it kind of felt, the atmosphere at the stadium was kind of felt like playoff. You have Boston fans in there, so it was kind of a big moment atmosphere, and Kike he delivered. So that's why I kind of have that confidence that he will come through in spots in the playoffs. Even though, he's not having the greatest season, but I think he's one of those guys that, once the playoffs come, he does turn it on. Same with the other guy that you mentioned. I think they could get a Randy, right? Especially with the Rays, because Andrew Friedman knows that system. He knows those guys over there. I mean, I have a feeling that, when Friedman's looking at his roster, he's also looking at the Rays roster at the same time and kind of just seeing what everybody's got and scouting both teams. So I think definitely if there's gonna be a move that they're gonna make, I think they're definitely gonna make a move with the Rays for somebody. I think they'll definitely get somebody coming from the Rays.
Canelo, I think you bring up a very interesting question, and I think the Dodgers are kind of in a tough spot and behind the eight ball here. And that is, what do they do at third base? Because how much longer can you wait and think that Muncy is going to make it back? And if he does come back, how long is it going to take him to get into the full swing of a Major League Baseball season?
Yeah, third base is probably the biggest concern in my opinion because I don't really get it. I don't have a grasp, because we're not super inside, with the trainers and everything and talking to them. I don't really know where Muncy is at all. Some weeks he's swinging, some weeks he's not. Some weeks he's fielding, some weeks he's not. Right now, he's doing everything. I think he's fielding and taking some light swings, but who's to say that report's going to change, in the next homestand coming up, And, I mentioned a Nightengale, where it's like Paredes, he seems like a logical option, but he has so much team control that's cheap. Why would the Rays even consider trading him, And then there's other teams that are also interested in him, The Houston Astros have interest in him, the Seattle Mariners. Those are teams that have, especially the Mariners, they have probably could beat the Dodgers in a trade package for that guy. I think the Dodgers are just going to hope for the best. If you get Muncy back at the end of the season, awesome. And then hopefully he gets enough at-bats in September or, like if he comes right back before the postseason starts, hopefully he did some like simulated games, getting some at bats and stuff like that, and then you pray that he is somewhat resembling the old Muncy. I feel like that's just going to be a hole for the rest of the season. I wrote Rengifo. He makes perfect sense, but I just don't believe the Angels would trade with the Dodgers if they can kind of, peel back a little bit and swallow some of their pride. I think it would be beneficial for the Angels to tear it down fully, and Rengifo kind of just fits the Dodgers mold. Utility infielder who can play second, short, and third, and some outfield, I guess, if you really wanted to put him out there. But yeah, Muncy is the big Achilles heel for this team because he does so much for the offense in terms of getting on base, power, slug, and he made great strides at defensively. My other internal logical option was Miguel Rojas, but with his injury, a forearm strain, do you really want to, even if he does return this season, do you really want him to make throws across the diamond, from third base? I'm not sure that they do, and we don't even know if he's going to come back. And I know everyone's going to point to the minor leagues like Andre Lipsius, Cody Jose. They're not in the majors for a reason, guys. That if the Dodgers saw any sort of value, those guys would have been called up long ago. I know he went on, the Lipsius Linsanity run. Well, he didn't get called up, guys. The Dodgers aren't going to call him up anytime soon, and I wouldn't want to put my faith in, a rookie, journeyman infielder. I would want to go either just bet on Muncy coming back or just going to try to trade for somebody out in the market. But we'll see what they do there. But it's definitely a hole.
I want Dennis Gonzalez has a good question, and that is, who do you believe will stick around longer, Nick Ahmed or Kevin Biggio? Look, I was very perplexed by the Biggio signing. They have their reasons why he's still on the team, but he doesn't hit, and defensively, I don't get what they're seeing. I have not been impressed with him defensively either. So maybe they were just trying to buy time till the trade deadline. But I do think the Miguel Rojas injury changes things, because for them to put him on the IL that quick, they know something that we don't know. And the fact that they got Nick Ahmed, I think is there's a reason there. Babyface, you've been at the stadium the past few weeks. I mean, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably expect Ahmed to probably stick around longer now, just because he's new, right? And we've seen kind of what Biggio's been doing. Biggio obviously he can field different positions, right? At third, he'll play second, first. I think he even had him in the outfield. Ahmed just strictly like shortstop? You guys know?
I think Ahmed can play third. He can play third.
So depending on what's going to happen with Muncy, but I mean, honestly, both of them probably do have some time, unless somebody like Muncy's coming back. I don't see any of those guys going anywhere, right? I mean, those are your infield depth guys right now. So for the unless they pick up a somebody on the trade market like on Tuesday, I think those guys are going to be they'll be around for a while.
And that's
Nick Ahmed won the game for them today. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Coach.
I mean, so far so good with Nick Ahmed, but people are asking like, who's going to stick around longer? I mean, right now I think they're pretty safe.
Yeah, I think the infield's set. I think the infield's like, there's not going to be any upgrades. They're not going to trade anybody away. Gavin Lux, guys, love him or hate him, he played well enough to where he's not getting shipped off. Mookie Betts, I imagine, is going to go back to short. Third base, if Muncy comes back, awesome. If not, you're going to still be kind of rolling out a platoon of what they have in between Kike Hernandez, Chris Taylor when he was healthy, Miguel Rojas got some reps there. If all those guys come back, that's going to be your third base carousel unless Muncy, reclaims his spot. Outfield, that's where they're going to make upgrades to, help the offense, and we've seen them linked to a bunch of names. Luis Robert Jr. is the big fish. Randy Rosarena, David Vassay linking them to a couple Cubs outfielders. Cody Bellinger's name keeps getting thrown around out there. I mean, there's all sorts of options that the Dodgers can look at in the outfield, and getting an outfield bat is a lot more manageable than getting like an infielder. And for good reason, especially the infielders that are on supposedly the trade market this year who are under team control for a long time. That just makes it harder to get those players.
I like Michael Carrillo's suggestion, and that is Isaiah Kiner. I'm going to butcher his last name. Is it pronounced Falafe? Is that
Isaiah Kiner Falefa?
Is it
That's how I
Falefa?
thought. I believe
Okay.
so.
Keep me honest, guys. Is it Falafa? Look, his numbers. He's hitting 292. He's got 7 home runs. I'll take that in the infield right now, and that's just because I love batting average. But I know nobody in Major League Baseball appreciates batting average anymore. But if you have that guy who can play solid defense, and like Michael Carrillo says, he can play shortstop, he can play second, he can play third. If you're going to put him at the bottom of the lineup, and I know that the bottom of the lineup lately has been producing and getting in front of the top of the lineup, but what would it cost? I mean, Babyface, are you behind that idea? What would you think it would cost to get him out of Toronto?
It'd be some maybe high A minor leaguer. I think it probably wouldn't cost him that much. I mean, I think it's definitely something that's doable. And I mean, besides that, I mean, I don't think, Bob mentioned Toronto. Probably they're not moving any of their other guys, right? They're not moving Bichette. They're not going to move Vlad. So, hey, I mean, it's definitely something you put on the table and you explore it. But cost-wise, I don't think it'd be that expensive.
Canelo, are you behind that idea? Do you like that idea?
I like looking at some of the Blue Jays rentals. I know people, are tired of reunions. Justin Turner, I mean, he's just a pure hitter. If you want to say old man Turner, do you have the potion to go back playing third base? Maybe it works out. I don't think so. I think an American League team probably trades for Turner so he can DH. IKF, man, I mean, the advanced stats, they're not pretty. Most of his Baseball Savant page is pretty blue, which isn't good. His expected batting average is in the 47th percentile. He literally just does not have any slug. 15th percentile. Exit velocity is low, hard hit percentage is low. What he doesn't do is he doesn't strike out, and he doesn't, whiff on a lot of these pitches. He plays really good defense, 89th percentile in outs above average, but he can also play second base, shortstop. The Yankees had him playing outfield, so he is that Swiss Army knife player that the Dodgers do like to covet. And Roger's correct. The Blue Jays aren't going to get, some type of, major prospect unless the trade market is truly a seller's market where everybody's getting, a king's ransom these days. But yeah, I think IKF, it won't be the sexy name, but it would be what I've already explained. They need to revamp their bench. Don't expect him to be a starter. Just expect him to be a plug-and-play guy. If guys come back and are healthy, then he's on your bench. I think that's a good bench bat. I think that would be a good deadline piece. I think the big interesting part I would try to pry away Kikuchi. I think the Dodgers need pitching. So if you can get any type of pitching anywhere, and the fact that he's a lefty, that helps them as well. So that's not the frontline ace that they need, but it's a guy that could be dependable to start every 4th or 5th day.
Michael Carrillo coming in with Turner can't hit fastballs. And that's probably true, Michael. But the thing that concerns me, too, is it seems like the Dodgers can't hit fastballs this year. And that doesn't give me any confidence going into the playoffs that they are struggling hitting
they
fastballs.
Actually them and the Padres rank 29 and 30th in fastballs down the heart of the zone in terms of, I think it was like OPS on the stat I was reading. So not good.
Yeah, and so it's funny because we've been spending almost the last hour talking about how like the holes that they need and all that stuff, and yet they're 20 games over 500. Everybody feels like they're gonna win the division. I think the Serpientes and the Show Pods had their chance. Like, I mean, there's still 2 months left in the season, so anything could happen. But they had their chance to make their move because this always seems to happen every year with the Dodgers. Come August, they go on this tear. They've won 6 out of 7. Babyface, you're the eternal optimist on this show. Is this the beginning of the Dodgers going on a tear, even though their starting rotation is in shambles?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, you got Kershaw back. You got Glasnow back. You're getting some of your other pieces. Gratterall's getting close to coming back. And you're mixing and matching with some of these rookies. And I definitely think, and then if you get a couple more pieces at the trade deadline, they could definitely go on, one of those August runs where they win 25 of 30 games or whatever, right? So, but like we've been saying, yeah, they have holes. They're playing, they've been playing better this week, but we've discussed this many times. It's not, we're looking at these holes. It's not about now, right? It's about October, and they got to get whatever it is that's not firing all cylinders taken care of now. That way, once they get to October, they're able to do the thing in October because, we've discussed this many times. So yeah, great to win 100 games in the regular season. We got to get those wins in October.
They have some very interesting series coming up that I'm very curious to see how they react to them. They have the Astros this weekend, who all of a sudden the Astros are on top of their division, playing really well. And of course, there's a lot of emotion involved in that series. After that, they got a 2-game set against the Show Pods. The Show Pods have beat them this year, right? And if the Show Pods are going to make a move, they got to start doing it soon. And then after the Oakland, they come back to play the Phillies in LA. And that's the series that I really want to see what happens there, because by then they will have had their trade acquisitions. How do they match up against the Phillies at home? If they make it a competitive series, then maybe that'll calm everyone down come the postseason to say, hey, you know what? We can hold our own against the Phillies. But not only that, in August, Baltimore comes to Los Angeles. So how do they match up with the Orioles? I mean, I think we're really going to see what this team is really made of in this month of August. What say you, Canelo?
Yeah, I think if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I think this August series...
Look how Ric Flair of you, baby.
I think if you got to, once the Phillies come to town, I was there in Philly, covering the first 2 games there as a fan in the last game. Embarrassing. I probably just spent more time walking around the stadium that last game. But yeah, I feel like with the trade acquisitions, the Phillies, they make their moves, Dodgers make their moves. I hope to see them play better at home. Playing the Astros this weekend, I think that's a big test for them. Not sure how that series is going to go since the bullpen just seems like it pitched a lot this series against the Giants. So we'll see what happens there, especially being in Houston. And then Baltimore, that's another top American League team. I think Baltimore and the Dodgers are very similar, areas where they lack rotation depth, but they have kind of top heavy offense, and their role players are starting to play to their role. The Dodgers bottom half of the lineup we saw today, they hit really well. So that'll be an interesting matchup there. But yeah, I'm interested to see how every one of these teams looks when they face each other, because we're all thinking that they're making that big move. And unfortunately, it's finite resources out there. So not everybody's going to be able to get every player that they want. And the Dodgers could get multiple. They could get one. They could get none, which would be the worst case scenario. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I just hope they put up a better fight, because I think it would cool off. Because realistically, you'll look at the Phillies. They only have 3 more wins than the Dodgers right now, and the Phillies are completely healthy. The Phillies have everybody, ready. Their rotation is fully healthy. Their lineup is healthy. The Dodgers have a whole team on the injured list right now, and I never like to use that as an excuse, because that's the reason why you have, you have depth. That's the reason why you go in the offseason. You try to get as many players as you can. But the Dodgers to stay not only way ahead of everybody in the NL West is remarkable, and the fact that they're still pushing for not only the best record in the NL, but they're still only a couple games away from the Cleveland Guardians for the best record in the MLB. I just think once these guys come back and they make some moves, I think they will be the team to beat come October.
And the Phillies they've been struggling too.
Yeah.
Right after that Dodgers series, they lost a series to the A's, and I think they dropped another.
I don't know
series.
if you guys looked at the most recent, stretch of games for most of these teams, but they're all pretty bad right now. The Orioles are bad. The Phillies are 500. The Dodgers are I think 1 game over 500. The Yankees have been on a free fall for like probably worse than what's happening to the Yankees right now is what people think are happening to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. The Orioles haven't been doing too well. The Guardians, they have the best record in baseball right now, and I think they're 500 over the last like 20 games or something. So I don't know if something's in the water in the U.S. There could have been a leak or something, but none of these teams are playing up to their ability. But I think once the trades are made, and once like Mookie Betts coming back is a big one. If Max Muncy comes back, that's an even bigger addition. And I expect the Dodgers to make a big trade. And that's not me trying to be a homer. I do expect this team to make a big trade.
Dennis Gonzalez knows this show very well. He knows that the fastest way to get your comment read on this show is to make a wrestling reference. So when Dennis Gonzalez says Ric Flair and Randy Savage are better than Hulk Hogan, preach, my friend, preach. And so this is where, because our friend Canelo over here, we have to learn him in the ways of wrestling. The actual quote from Ric Flair is this, Canelo: "To be the man, baby, you got to beat the man." Woo! Let's go. Ric Flair woo right there. Okay, let's end the show with let's do some hot takes right here. Okay. Hot takes. Who are the Dodgers gonna get at the trade deadline? The trade deadline is it's on the 30th, Canelo. It's not on the 31st.
Yep, it's weird. It's on the 30th. Me and Roger were trying to put together what time it ends. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, that's the trade deadline this year.
6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Did you search that?
Yeah.
Sources say. Did you confirm that? But
okay,
yeah.
So it is Thursday. The Serpientes made a trade today. So here we go. This is how we're going to end the show. I want to know what is the big trade and how soon do the Dodgers make this trade? Are they going to make us wait until Tuesday? Canelo, you go first.
All right. This is big. People are going to see what I'm going to say right now, and they're going to record it. And if it happens, then I'm posting it everywhere. If it doesn't, we're going to delete this pod. But I don't know. I'm just reading it. Every single guy is saying that they're linked to this, and it should be their biggest target. And I think they get Garrett Crochet. And I think the way they do it, I think the extension part of it, I think benefits the Dodgers because I think it makes the Dodgers more comfortable if they can get this guy locked up to a longer term contract, make it something incentive laden in terms of, hey, we're banking on you. We're betting on you. You'll get more money if you pitch more innings. Yeah, you meet certain, they've done these type of contracts before. James Paxton, I know they released him, but they had all types of player incentives for it laden into his just 1-year contract. I think they like Crochet. I know he said he doesn't want to pitch in the bullpen, but I think the Dodgers would like to use him in a Swiss Army knife. And I do agree with Nightengale. I think if the Dodgers are saying, hey, we want to use you in this hybrid role and you're going to join a team that's looking to win a World Series, I think he'll say yes. I think that's just kind of him trying to have any leverage. But I'll even go a little step further. I do think they pull off a blockbuster, and I think they try to get Luis Robert in that deal too. And I say it for a bunch of reasons, just because the terms of his contract being $20 million, I think, next year, and then $250 million club options the years after that, and being, a potential Gold Glove center fielder if he can stay on the field, and one of the best power bats on the market. And he's miles better than every outfielder that we have on the team, even Teoscar Hernandez. If he can stay healthy and reach his potential in LA, I think he can reach that. So I'll say they wait until the very last day, probably the last couple hours of the deadline to make that deal, though. And I do think Crochet will sign the extension.
All right, babyface.
I mean, I'd love to see that. I just don't.
Boo.
I don't know. I don't see it happening. I mean, it could happen, right? I'd love to see it happen, but I think, like I was saying earlier, I think they have a natural trade partner with the Rays, and I'm kind of feeling that Randy Arozarena trade. I think that's going to happen. I think they'll go along the lines and pick up him, and then I do think they'll probably get a pitcher. But I think it's probably going to be somebody like, maybe like that Eric, how do you say his last name? Fede, somebody like that. If they can't get that blockbuster like Cody's talking about, I think they'll pick up a lesser guy, somebody like that. I mean, he's not having a bad season. He has ERA under 3. I mean, so I think they need pieces in there to help them out. If they can't get a top of the line, starter, right? I mean, because they're banking on Yamamoto. We don't know if he's going to come back, but I think that's the big question mark. If Yamamoto comes back and he's able to give them starts going into the postseason, if they can't get that, then obviously they do need to pick up a couple arms. But we'll see. I think their partner, their trade partner, is going to be Tampa Bay.
Okay, Babyface, I agree with you that the trade partner is going to be Tampa Bay. Canelo, I agree with you that they're going to get a pitcher and a bat, but I think they're getting them out of Tampa Bay because the Dodgers, if anything, what they have proven to us is they are capitalists. So here is my hot take. They are going to get Randy Rice-Arena, they're going to get Eflin, and then they'll get a reliever out of Tampa Bay. And when Randy Rice-Arena shows up at Dodger Stadium next at the Oscar, that place is going to go nuts. Las botas de poder are going to become a thing. I am telling you, he is made for, and if you look at his batting average, it's not good, but he has 15 home runs. You put Randy Rice-Arena in that lineup, maybe a different environment. He sees how he feeds off at the Oscar. And this is a conversation that Babyface has brought up many times. And that is maybe the Dodgers need that Latin energy, that Latino energy that the Latinos seem to bring in the postseason, whether they're passionate. We've seen it from the Oscar against the Yankees series. We saw it, what he did against Las Medias Rojas. That deal's going to happen, and it's going to happen Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. So before we finish things off, I just want to read off some of your guys' predictions. So Michael Carrillo thinks it's going to be Randy Rice-Arena, Flaherty, and a bullpen arm. Mr. Seabad, I love his positivity. Dodgers will not get anyone and avoid getting fleeced. Roy Estrada believes Randy Rice-Arena will be a Dodger. Dennis Gonzalez with the confidence. Randy Rice-Arena, Screwball in Paredes. Let's see here. What else do we got? Any other ones? That's it. So that's going to do it for this show, guys. Next time we talk to you guys, we're going to see if the Dodgers addressed any of these or if Friedman's going to come out there in the press conference and say, I think it'll go something like this. We tried and it's just nothing could come together, but we're really happy with the guys that we got and the guys that are coming back from injury. We feel that those were better options than what was out there. That's what I think the speech is going to be. Babyface Canelo, any last words before we get out of here?
I just hope I inspire the Dodgers front office to do something, because if what Roger says happens, I'm going to be pretty mad. But I could definitely see every one of our takes being this trade deadline is way different than last year, because last year I feel like we weren't confident they were going to do anything. This year it's like we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what the league's going to do, because Bob Nightengale even said that this trade deadline has the chance to be a dud, and I think that goes to a greater conversation with the way the playoff format is. More teams means more mediocre teams can get into the the dance. So, and that means less teams looking to make the trade deadline fun and sell. So we'll see what happens.
And we were going over this before. I mean, there aren't that many sellers, right? I mean, if you look, Colorado's not going to trade with the Dodgers, right? And you got teams like Miami. You have who else? Tampa Bay, right?
Miami already traded, man.
Yeah,
they went to
those are teams that there's a couple teams that won't trade with the Dodgers. Like the Rockies aren't going to trade with the Dodgers. The Angels are probably not going to trade with the Dodgers. So there's 2 teams already eliminated from a handful of teams that are trading.
Hey, what's crazy, Babyface, is the 2 teams that you just mentioned right now are the only teams that are out of it in the National League. Everyone else in the National League is within striking distance to the wild card. This is what Manfred wanted. It's working for him in the National League. In the American League, it's a completely different story. But damn it, I'm going to go to the Callejones. I'm going to get my Randy Rice-Arena contraband. And Las Botas de Poder are coming to Dodger Stadium the place is going to go nuts. They're not going to know what to do with the Oscar and Randy Rice Arena.
Just hit up Farhan and see what he wants for Snell. All right.
Bold.
Snell's going to be the same situation. He's going to give you 5 innings. You know? So, all right, that's going to do it. For all of you guys on the line, thanks for joining us. Give a big shout out. Happy birthday to Simeon. I hope you had fun today at Dodger Stadium. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. We got a lot of content on the YouTube. We got pregame and postgame coverage, and we got some interviews on there. We're going to be dropping another episode soon, right, Babyface? Who are we dropping next?
Andy McCullough.
And when are we dropping that?
I'll drop it tomorrow as well.
Okay, so check out our interview with Andy McCullough, because I will say this. I thought the Randy Rice Arena trade thing was all bullshit. I didn't think that was any reality. But everyone we talk to, that's the name that they say is Randy Rice Arena. So they have now convinced me. They have gotten my hopes up, and I'm going to be so pissed Tuesday night if Las Botas de Poder is not a Dodger. So that's going to do it for this show, everybody. This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast has been brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. Nos vemos.